Hello, a very good morning to you. Today is Friday, the 12th of December. This is Paper Trail, the daily streaming all about governance, risk, and compliance in the UK for SME and mid-market firms. And today is the final day of this supportive culture week, not a blaming culture. And when we say supportive culture, it means actually in terms of compliance, the teams always are stressed, worried, tensing, because of all these requirements and not knowing where they have to do what looks or what good looks like, etc. So Monday, we started from the beginning with the philosophy. And today, Friday, we are closing this with proof how this can be happening. And here's why. Because supportive compliance culture is not measured in posters on training slides. So remember, we have an example at the airport where they say, oh, if it's spilled in the aisle, just put a yellow tag, a yellow little support there that say careful, wet floors, etc. So it's not just that, it's about what the people think about and how certain what they have to do when they have to do things and how to report that back and attach the evidence that they've done it. So its measurement is in the moments when something unexpected happens. For example, that incident that I mentioned earlier, and in the systems that show whether your organization responds with panic or silence or steady confidence. So panic will be like, oh my God, what I have to do? I need to call somebody. Silence is, I'd rather turn around and go to the other way so somebody will find it and sort it out. Or steady confidence. I say, oh, I have a spill here, so I need to clean it up, put the tag here as a warning, people careful, there is a wet floor, and report that actually that happened. And this is a silly example, but you understand how these complexities can be associated with this example. So incident tells you the truth. So evidence shows whether that truth is consistent. So together, they reveal whether your culture is supportive or it is strained. So today we attempt to make that visible in your organization. But these are the three most common problems. And I'm going to mention only two frameworks out of the 16 that actually are mandatory in any UK company if you are in scope. So problem number one, the Health and Safety Executive Guidance notes that organizations must capture, review, and learn from incidents to prevent recurrence. Yet, many firms lack a unified system so patterns remain invisible and near misses go unaddressed, right? Problem number two, the Information Commissioner's offices. Accountability model states that organizations must demonstrate compliance through evidence, not assertion. So he said, no, we did it. No, it doesn't count. You have to show evidence. But most SMEs and mid-market teams often struggle to coordinate documentation across several frameworks, leading to bottlenecks and pressure spikes. And many of the time, activities are absolutely admin for people that doesn't have to do that admin administration because it's not their job, but they don't have a place how to go and get this evidence and show it in their reports. And problem number three is internal analysis of many companies that most compliance workloads in SMEs and mid-market firms sits in evidence tracking and incident follow-up. This is what just mentioned earlier. So scattered records, emails, somebody's people head, somebody's phone. So it's unclear owners and repeated requests for the same proof create anxiety and people feel before audits, inspections, or when they have to do reports or to report an incident or to register an incident. So if we want to picture this in a metaphor, another metaphor, think of an incident like a smoke alarm, right? It doesn't tell you who burned the toast. It tells you where your attention is needed and right now. And we are going to cover this in a second now, because with what means right now, here's the 3 points to consider to encourage your teams to change from blaming or escaping or actioning with confidence in the compliance environment, what to do, how to do. So number one, build a structured incident path. So the health and safety executives, again, expect incidents and near misses to be logged, categorized, analyzed, and linked to corrective actions. So leadership can spot trends and prevent escalations, right? So escalation doesn't mean like, oh, I'm going to tell my manager. Escalation means actually that worsens also things. So it makes it worse and worse and worse. Number two, link incidents to risk. Each event should adjust likelihood scores, and trigger review of treatments. So, which is a category. So from 1 to 10, how is likely to happen this again? And which are the review treatments that we're going to put in place? This closes the loop. So a theory becomes evidence-based learning and not guesswork. And for example, which is the impact, is a likelihood, is how we detect this, and which is a time sensitivity. So how fast or not we have to act upon this issue. And avoid this trap. Create an evidence model you maintain year-round. So you have to maintain a year-round model, but the Information Commissioner's Office also highlights that documentation decisions, reviews, and updates form part of accountability. So treating evidence as a steady workflow removes the last minute or the scramble, right? So as you can see, when you treat one individual or two frameworks, today we talk about ICO and health and safety executive, but remember we mentioned 16 different frameworks in the UK if you're in scope. So particularly this is very difficult and complex for SMEs and mid-market companies where there are no dedicated teams, officials, or personnel within the company to run these compliance requirements or to set them up or to put it together. So imagine you have health and safety, but then you have fire safety. But if you're managing a fleet, you have DVCA also requirements, and then GDPR and cybersecurity and so on and so forth, PCR, EPR. All these acronyms, I say, all they have their own requirements, all they have their own evidence requests, and they need to have the controls to perform and based on your company profile. So if you want to know which is a hierarchy, is a requirement, company profile, process or system that you put in place, and the evidence. And remember, the evidence you have to have is the best, or it is the best defensible position that you can ever have in front of inspections, audits, notice, etc., etc. So no wonder 73% of UK companies outsource and hire consultants or advisors or delegate to contractors their compliance. And this is not directly delegation, it's actually they ask for advice, how we do this, how we can help to do this. Or delegating to contractor means actually other people are doing these things, and allegedly, I say, it's contractual sometimes, and sometimes it's not. They report all these incidents and pass on that information to you so you can satisfy the regulator. So what is the things that you should be looking for to make sure that you are reducing your risks in terms of compliance and your organization is compliant when they are audited, or just because you have good behaviors? Because nobody wants to get up in the morning and say, oh, I'm going to fail today. No, everybody tries to do their best job. Sometimes the culture is like, I don't want to do this, because they don't have a clear guidelines, the process, who's responsible for what, and what they have to do in front of certain situations. So when you are going to outsource, as always mentioned in these live streams, you should have a baseline in mind, or at least in mind, so what you are looking for. So these are 3 suggestions when outsourcing, particularly considering when you the changes that you're looking for, from blaming culture to compliance confidence culture in terms of your teams. So when you're outsourcing, look for these 3 things. Number 1, outcomes. Do they connect incidents, risk, controls, and evidence in one workflow, automatically updating likelihood, and which is the impact, how they detect these problems, and which is a time sensitivity in a score style when events occur? And what I'm trying to say with all this is that leadership sees the real picture, not assumptions. So this is what happens, which is the risk treatment, how we're going to fix it, and who is the hierarchy of escalation in terms of people that's going to act fast or not, according to the issue. Number 2, differentiator. How they differentiate from anybody else? Do they ensure every incident becomes actionable? So the triage, the category, root cause, owner, corrective measures, and attached evidence. This prevents repetitions and supports a learning culture instead of a punitive one. So you don't want to put your people on the spot. You want to say, listen, we're going to learn from this, and we're going to document and how to address these issues in the coming future to avoid them, or to prevent them, or if that happen, which is a triage. And triage means a protocol of action or a priority. So who has to do what, when, and how, or now or later, right? So it's kind of how fast, who is doing what. And number three, how they reduce your risk as a company, as an individual, because you are responsible. And remember, we mentioned this in other live streams. The final responsible for any organization is the company itself. It doesn't matter if you're outsourcing, if it's delegated to contractors, it's advisors or consultants. Read the letters of engagement. It clearly says that the final responsible is you. They act upon on the information that you provide to them. The same as the insurance company, so be careful there. So if you change things and you don't let them know, it bounces back directly to you. But even though the final responsible is, according to the regulator, is the individual and the company itself. So how they help you to reduce your risk? Do they provide platforms that remove the evidence bottlenecks by consolidating proofs across frameworks? Yeah, so you can upload once and satisfies many requirements. So you avoid these duplications and redundant work. So, for example, GDPR, health and safety, cyber essentials, and ESG, and more of them, are turning frantic collection into a calm routine. Why? Because 70% of the information that these frameworks, GDPR, health and safety, cyber essentials, and ESG, require more or less the same information and the same evidence. So you don't have to do it again and again and again, right? So as an exercise, if you may, review your last 3 incidents or near misses and write down whether each one updated a control, a risk, or a piece of evidence. And if nothing changed, you have found a gap in the loop. And perhaps it's a time to consider a change in terms of something that is more faster, more reliable, and easier to do. That's why we build our software from the ground up, and it's called Paper Trail. So if you want incidents, risk, and evidence feeding into one and another in a single closed loop system, join the Paper Trail waitlist and let us build that structure for you. Actually, the structure is already built, so you feel your company profile and the structure start to be aligned with your company profile, so you understand exactly what is required from you and the things that you can say, this is not a requirement, and it's justifiable. You justify why it's not a requirement for you, so you are in front of any auditor, inspection, or whatever, you say, no, we are not doing this control, so we don't have these requirements because this doesn't apply to us according to our company profile. So also that reduce activities that you don't have to do, or you think that you have to do, but in reality, you are not required to do. So it's all ready to demonstrate where are your risks and where is your evidence sitting. And remember that evidence is the best defensible position that you have in front of auditors, inspectors, etc., etc. So what you can do with Paper Trail, you stop activities that increase your workload, but add no value. So increasing your costs and your labor hours and expenses in just redundant work. And this is perfect for SMEs and mid-market firms because you use the same control for health and safety, GDPR, DVCA, cybersecurity, EPR, so not double entry, reducing your overlap by 60% and your costs by 80%. It's all in one place, it's a continued gap analysis, it's a clear view of what's done, what is missing, and who owns the fix before assurance, inspection reports, or audits hits you, right? So you can do it once, you can do it properly, and move on to the things that are more important to you, which is grow your company, grow your department, and be more profitable. So join the waitlist, papertrail.com, and stay tuned because all week we've shown that supported culture is not soft, it's a structure. And next week, we'll go further and start to show you how these same principles shape automation, reporting, assurance on Paper Trail itself, showing the tool how it works. So have a great weekend and see you on Monday. Thank you very much.